Welcome to Campfire Stories.
Pull up a little closer tonight, friends. The fire feels right for this one, and it's a story that's been waiting 67 years for anyone to explain it. I'm Marty Shepherd, and welcome to Campfire Stories.
And I'm Carol. Marty has been saving this one for a cold night, and I have to say, when he told me what we were doing tonight, I made a point of sitting on the side closer to the car.
February of 1959, Northern Ural Mountains, Soviet Union. 9 experienced ski hikers, students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, set out on a winter expedition to a peak called Otorten. They were led by a 23-year-old named Igor Dyatlov, fit and capable and completely in his element. These were not rookies wandering into the woods on a dare. They had done this before many times, and they knew the mountains.
That's the thing that got me when I first read about this. You picture 9 young people who knew exactly what they were doing, which somehow makes what happened worse, not better.
They planned to summit Otorten, then ski back down and catch a bus home by the 12th. Nobody worried when they were a few days late. Winter travel. You know how it goes. But when a search party finally went looking, they found the tent on the slope of a ridge called Holat Siachel. And here's the first thing that made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. In the local Mansi language, Holat Siachel means dead mountain.
I need you to just sit with that for a second. They camped on Dead Mountain, and nobody had second thoughts.
The tent had been cut open from the inside. Not unzipped, cut, with a knife, from the inside, in multiple places. And every single one of them had left on foot, in the dark, in temperatures around 30 below, most of them wearing only socks or a single boot, some in their underwear. They ran from that tent like whatever was in there with them was worse than freezing to death.
My grandmother would have said that some fear is older than thinking. The kind that moves your legs before your brain has time to argue.
The search teams followed their tracks down the slope about 1.5 miles toward the tree line. They found 2 of the young men, Yuri Doroshenko and Yuri Krivonishenko, under a large Siberian cedar, no shoes, no coats, hands and feet badly frostbitten. They had been trying to build a fire. A third body, Igor Dyatlov himself, was found 300 feet back toward the tent, as though he had been trying to crawl home. 2 more were found between him and the cedar, lying in the snow like they had simply lain down and accepted it.
Marty, that image of Dyatlov crawling back toward the tent, I keep thinking, what was he crawling back for?
Was he trying to get something?
Or was he trying to warn somebody?
Nobody knows. And it gets stranger. The remaining 4 weren't found until May, buried under nearly 14 feet of snow in a ravine not far from the cedar. One of them, a young woman named Lyudmila Dubinova, was missing her tongue. Her eyes. Soft tissue gone. Now, investigators said animals post-mortem, which is entirely possible, but it has never sat comfortably with anyone who looked at the case closely.
I'll be honest, I had to get up and make a cup of tea when I read that part.
Here is where it goes from tragic to genuinely baffling. 3 of those 4 had massive internal injuries, crushed ribs, a fractured skull, with almost no external bruising. The Soviet doctor who examined them said the force required was comparable to a car crash. One investigator compared it to being struck by a tremendous pressure wave. And yet no one had a mark on their skin to suggest a fight, a fall, an animal attack.
There's a line, I'm thinking of Agatha Christie actually, about how the impossible explanation is still an explanation once you've ruled out everything else. These poor investigators must have felt like they were living inside that problem.
They were. The official Soviet investigation closed the case with a phrase that is, and I say this with full appreciation, one of the great understatements in the history of paperwork. The hikers died as a result of an unknown compelling force. Unknown. Compelling. Force. They typed those words on a government document, stamped it, and filed it.
That is somehow both the most unhelpful and most honest conclusion I have ever heard from a bureaucracy.
For decades, the theories rolled in. A military weapons test gone wrong. There were restricted zones nearby. Infrasound from the wind, creating a kind of panic response, like the feeling you get before a storm but turned up to 11. The local Mansi people, those searchers, found no evidence of that, and the Mansi cooperated fully. A controlled avalanche triggered by the group themselves, actually the most widely accepted explanation now, and it accounts for the injuries better than anything else.
And the radiation? Because I know you haven't mentioned the radiation yet, and I have been waiting.
Ah, yes. Slight radioactive contamination on some of the clothing. Which sounds alarming, and people have made a great deal of it, but investigators at the time noted that one of the young men, Krivonyshenko, had worked at a nuclear facility and may simply have had contaminated work clothes in the pack. Possible. Reasonable even. And yet the pass was named Dyatlov Pass in Igor's memory, and it sits up there still in the northern Urals, and the cedar tree is still there, and some things, I think this is the honest version, some things are not fully explained by avalanche plus contaminated laundry. Not because the explanation is wrong, necessarily, but because 9 capable, experienced people ran out of a tent at night in 30 below weather and never made it home, and the full shape of that night has never quite been filled in.
You know what stays with me most? It's not the injuries or the tongue or any of the frightening parts. It's that they were somebody's children. Somebody's friends. They had a whole expedition journal. They'd been writing in it all the way up the mountain, making jokes and drawing little pictures. The last entry just says, "We don't know where the day went." And then nothing.
That journal. Yeah. They were funny. Those kids. The entries are warm and a little silly in the way that young people are when they're happy and cold and together. Hitchcock once said the difference between suspense and surprise is that suspense is knowing the bomb is under the table. The journal is the bomb under the table. You're reading these cheerful kids, and you know and they don't.
Oh, Marty. Don't do that to me.
I think what the Dyatlov Pass reminds us, what wilderness always reminds us when we're honest, is that we are still very small, and the world is still very large, and there are moments in the dark that no report, no conclusion, no stamped government file will ever fully account for. Respect the mountain. Respect the night. Pack a warmer coat than you think you need. I'm Marty Shepherd.
And those 9 young people deserved better than an open file and a renamed mountain, but at least we remember their names. Sleep warm tonight, friends. All the way warm.